I'm not saying that Pac was fake or anything like that. You know, he certainly had a temper. But more than a temper, he was just very, very passionate. You know, if he had a feeling about something or he sensed injustice or disrespect or whatever, you know, he's going to let you know that with passion. You know, he's going to passionately express himself. But that doesn't mean that he was, you know, that he had some kind of evil in his soul or anything like that. He was actually a very, very kind, very happy, very generous person. And the thing that I always remember about him is that if you walked in the room right now and introduced yourself to him, he would sit down with you and look you in the eye and make you feel like you were the big deal in the room and not him. There are a lot of times when, you know, working in studios, they typically have interns or runners. And I saw many times those guys get mistreated and, you know, they're gophers or whatever you want to call them. But Pac, you know, would send them to McDonald's to pick up some food or whatever, and they'd come back and Pac would let them, you know, keep the change, you know, tip them $100 or whatever just because, you know, he appreciated what they were doing. So just little things like that. You know, he was just a very, very creative spirit about him. And I think sometimes that kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
This is a Jmix exclusive.
You did some clean versions of songs for the Thug Life album. Was this due to the fact that it was not exactly a commercial type of album?
Again, speaking about things that happened, you know, 20-some years ago or whatever, I can say this. I know that in that particular time, there was a lot of concern. There was a lot of media coverage and hype and everything, you know, about gangster rap. That was kind of becoming like a kitchen table term. There were certain political groups that were kind of coming down on some of the media companies that promoted gangster rap, and this might have been around the time of the Ice-T cop killer stuff and all that. So there was also, I remember in L.A. there was a big movement where they were starting to. There was a time in L.A. where on certain stations at any given time of day they would play anything. You didn't need a clean version. And I think as some of the scrutiny kind of came down, the radio stations kind of cleaned up their act. You know, maybe if you got in trouble with the FCC or whatever. So, you know, radio play being important as it was at that time, it just became necessary to have some clean versions that you could play on the radio and not have the program directors trip out about it. So they hired me to come in and record some alternate vocals and do some edits and things like that to try to put some video versions together.
You did some work at Quad Studios. You were based in LA at the time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Quad Studios was long labeled as basically the Notorious B.I.G. stomping grounds. Did you ever get a chance to meet Chris Wallace?
I did not meet Chris Wallace. moe-z and I worked on an early version of Running from the Police, and that was as close as I got that I can recall to meeting him. I'm not going to say that I never met him, or it could be that I actually worked with him, but if I did, it was in the early days before, you know, he became the superstar that he became. But as far as Quad is concerned, there were a lot of act. That was a very, very good studio, and they had multiple rooms there. And that was home base for a number of engineers that I really respected, one of them being Dave Ogren, who did a lot of work with Cameo. He did a brilliant mix of Word Up. I believe that one was done at Quad. So I don't recall seeing Biggie there, but yeah, we did do that first. The first song that we did in New York was Outlaw on the Me Against the World album, and we did that one at Quad, and we also did some work at Unique.
I'd heard you tell the story, and if you will indulge me a little bit, about Tupac cutting the outro, the reggae outro out of that. Would you mind telling that story for us?
As best I can recollect, it kind of went down like this. That was the very first day that we worked together face to face, and I guess the dad, of moe-z beats, he had picked out that particular beat that became Outlaw. So we spent a little bit of time, trying to find out on the tape or whatever. Yeah, that's the one. And the reggae guy, had shown up with him. I don't know if this is the exact story, but from what I understand, this was a man that, maybe an hour earlier, had no idea he was going to be up in the studio with Tupac. I would imagine, and this is just my creation, I don't know if this is really what happened or not, but I would imagine that maybe they stopped at a convenience store or whatever, and this particular guy was in there or working there or whatever, and maybe he was doing this thing. Maybe he recognized Tupac and was like, hey, man, I sing a little bit, or I do the reggae thing or whatever, and Pac might have been like, hey, man, you know what? It's funny. I need somebody to do that right. We're headed up to the studio right now. Why don't you come? And I think that's how that's how he wound up. So we went ahead and did the song, and he put his part on there, and there was a really, really long intro where they just kind of let him, do his thing. And so they finished up, and after all the work was done, I was kind of doing a mix of it, and a couple of guys left. I think Pac fell asleep on the couch back in the back of the studio, and woke him up, played it for him. He's like, yeah, okay, and we made some copies, and went on our way. And then the next day he was like, man, cut that thing out of there, man. I'm like, why? He's like, man, it just goes on too long, man. Come on, man. So yeah, we took that out.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work on Me Against the World.
Yes.
And Tupac was fighting a rape charge during this period. Did he ever express to you any thoughts or disdain concerning the case or the press that resulted from the case, or did you overhear anything of that nature?
Well, again, I was not really an overhearer too much when I was in the studio. There were some times that we, kind of took a break or whatever, and we might have just sat there and talked a little bit. And not to mince words, but my understanding was that it was not actually a rape charge per se. I don't know if it was a plea bargain or just if we're splitting hairs on what it was, but it was something other than a rape charge from what I knew or from what I was told. Apparently, the alleged incident took place at a nightclub on a dance floor. You know what I mean? And if I had a fine woman who was pressing up against me or rubbing up, I mean, you can you imagine? And this is not to try to rationalize or justify it. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I could imagine that maybe, it didn't go down the way that the alleged victim says it did. I don't want to ever disrespect a female or whatever and say she brought it upon herself or whatever. But, you just don't know. You just don't know. There's so many people out there that try to take advantage of somebody. So, that's really all I can really say about it. I wasn't there. I don't think he was the type of guy who would or would need to If there was something that he wanted and one particular woman did not want to participate, there's probably another one a few feet away that was down for whatever. I really don't know, but I would say that just based upon the time I spent with him, I would not assume him to be the kind of guy that would do anything that was not mutually consensual. That's just my opinion.
This is a Jmix exclusive.
Hey all, it's Jmix here, and I want to thank everybody that took the time to watch the video. If you liked it, go ahead and throw it a like, maybe even a comment down below. And if you really like my content, check out my Patreon. The link is down below. For $1 a month, you get all the live streams, unedited as soon as they happen, plus interviews in advance and other bonus content. The link is in the description. If not, you guys could always watch one of the videos to the side of me. See you on the next upload. One love, everybody.